Good afternoon, all. How are you all doing? Thank you for joining us for this webinar this afternoon. We are based in Atlanta, and we have a panelist all the way from India. It's probably 12:30 a.m. for her there. So thank you for joining us. And thank you to the panelists for joining us extending their expertise and wisdom and knowledge. Thank you, Liz York, for joining us, and thank you, Dr. Gayatri Hela, for joining us all the way from India. Today, our topic for the discussion is technology for sustainability, right? An important word, sustainability, and we'll discuss more on how it makes an impact in all our lives, in our professional work, in our personal work, in our family work as well. So I'm also thankful to my team who has been helping in the background to help us put all this together. And we do have our intern Neha, who's moderating in the end. And our team is Madhu, Anu, Susan, Harper, and Sabina. Thank you all. We appreciate you so much. And the topic again for our discussion is technology for sustainability, and hope we have a meaningful and a constructive discussion, and for many things to learn from these experts who we have here. Liz is a senior architect and a strategist for a public health organization, federal public health organization, and a principal for Healthy Design Collaborative. So thank you, Liz, for joining us. Dr. Gayatri is managing director of Reseda Life Sciences Private Limited, based in Bangalore, and also she's the founder and director of R2 Phyto Corporation. Thank you both for joining us today. So before we hit our real questions for the day, I do want the panelists, the attendees, to know a little bit more about you. So Liz, why don't you tell us what is the one lesson or one thing that you learned during the lockdown period?
Oh, well, that's a really hard question, and you didn't prepare me in advance for this. I would have to say that mastering all of these telecommunications systems has been a constant battle and challenge. And as we know, with my bad internet here, it's quite challenging. So I think I've become more patient with technology, which I think we all have to do sometimes. And that was very much something that I needed to do. So I'm learning.
Very nice. You learned patience, right?
Wow.
and technology teaches us that. I think in the past half an hour, we both faced something that we had to work out. But the thing is, we were patient and calm, and we worked it out. So thank you for continuing to spread that patience message. Dr. Gayatri, how about you?
I think let me first say good afternoon to everyone who is there. I think it's a hard hit for me on the lifestyle, because before lockdown, we were our company was just 2 years old. We were crazy, working around, never bothered about what's happening with the family, with my daughter, and what's happening around, missing the little things in life, and getting stressed out for every silly thing, I would say. Right now, I feel many of those things which are stressed out were very silly. And it actually pacified me, and it made me take a break, pause, retrospect, and then really understand what's happening with my business, my life, my environment. I think it made me think quite a bit around every quarter of my life, and reorganize everything again.
Definitely.
And I think sustainability is the word that is buzzing all the time now.
Very nice.
For us now.
Yes, definitely. And I've heard from many people what is the lesson they've learned. And we've been busy at Vendorship throughout the past 3 months, Dr. Gayatri and Liz. I wish I had that time to say exactly what you said, to introspect. Our team just became busy day in and day out. And please do go to vendorship.net to visit our panelists' bio. So, and thank you for Vendorship for helping us put this session together as well. So let's go back to Dr. Gayatri. The question is for you. There's no universal definition, I think, for sustainability. I think it depends on whom you ask, when you ask, and where you ask the word. It's used in several forms. It has its own myths. It has its own judgments that come from various entities. But can you, just for the session today, can you tell us what is sustainability and what does it mean for everyday person?
If you see, I come from a very traditional Indian family where we were exposed to certain way of life as a child. And as I moved away from my town and I came to the city and then out of India, I visited quite a lot of countries. I think that for me, the sustainability I feel from my journey, I would say it's basically the coexistence of humans with the nature. How well we sync our life with the nature around us, and we be a part of nature rather than considering nature as a part of us. So we are one minuscule part of a big nature, which I think that's what even I learned from these few days of COVID, pre-COVID, or whatever situation. I think this is the major lesson I feel I have learned through my life journey. Yeah.
Very nice. You've sort of put it in one sentence. Where are we relevant in the world of nature as a human being or whatever we do? So great way to put it out. So Liz, let's talk about a sustainability that many people think. I think when we talk about sustainability, many people think it's about climate change, right? And then it completely distorts the entire conversation because it depends whether they're for it, for against it, and you lose the content, the message that we want to give out. Are there any principles and pillars behind sustainability, and what could those be, Liz?
So when I think about sustainability, I think about the triple bottom line, and many people have heard of the triple bottom line. It's people, planet, pocketbook. Some people say profit, but it's really any kind of economic piece to whatever project or whatever thing you're trying to solve. You've also probably seen it: ecology, economy, and equity. And the idea behind sustainability is that in order to be sustainable, a solution has to be looking at all three of those at the same time and solving for all of them at the same time. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. I mean, I hate to use a word to define itself, but the point is that if you're not looking at all three, then you're going to get down the road and someone's going to raise their hand and say, hey, wait, we're not thinking about equity with this solution. We need to rethink. Or, hey, this is not an economically viable solution for the long term, so we need to rethink it again. And certainly the other thing that I would say, I love what you said, Doctor, about this, the pieces of nature. We're not saving the world for the world. We're saving the world because it's our ecosystem and we can't live anywhere else. So it is tied up with people. And because we all have economics involved in our lives, it's tied up with economics. So that's why you have people, planet, and pocketbook kind of all working together.
Very nice. Wow, the three P's, as you, I'm sure that's how you take your message out. So when I think of, because I think we both have, almost all three of us have a public health background, and I would say when we talk about sustainability, it's like probably a succession plan. Like, we're not going to be on this earth forever, but how we leave it for our future, for our children. Right now, if we are teaching our children some skills, it's a succession plan, right? So is that rightly put?
I like that.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, good. Okay, Liz, thank you. Thank you. There you go. So, Dr. Gayatri, I think one of the most important development across the industrial revolution has been, to generate, capture, and transmit data. So probably I'm talking about technology, right? One of the wonderful findings or that has happened, significant improvements. So how technology can be leveraged to improve companies' environment performance as well as the company's bottom line. So maybe you want to use your experience and tell us, or maybe in general, how has technology transformed the way we do business?
Okay. See, I come from a life sciences industry. Basically, we are into R&D, manufacturing, and marketing of, the personal care or cosmetic or similar products, everything other than pharma. We don't do anything related to pharma or food. See, when it comes to our business, yes, the technology, basically, I feel it's more around the processes we follow, or the type. Again, when it comes to me for technology, I always see it as how do you manage the waste and how do you go green? That is a major thing that becomes the bottom line for our industry itself. Like, how are you managing that? How are you, again, it relates again to your economy or society or environment or us as a human. So for us, yes, the way we handled some of this, management of the waste or the waste we are letting into the environment, or the way we have worked around the, the products what we are developing, which actually helped us to reduce our manufacturing time or our production, or the product quality versus the cost of the product. So we could get into the market with better pricing with our products, and also we reduce the processes. So it just helped us throughout our the complete operations line for us. So the sustainable technology, what we have adapted and what we have introduced in our company, definitely, yes, it helps us to improve a lot of factors that, actually helped us in this present situation of COVID as well, because of certain things we have done with respect to technology. So we could sustain our presence during COVID. I would say we have not suffered because of COVID. We are still on the advantageous side because of those some of the sustainable technologies we have used throughout our processes. I think that has made us be in the business still strong, still going strong.
Oh, that's a very good point you raised, Gayatri. So Liz, let me get back to you, though I had a different question. I want to follow up on what Dr. Gayatri said. So does sustainability mean being in business during COVID? I mean, is that the right way to say it, or they were not prepared, or they didn't have the technology, or so just give me a quick response to that, and I'll ask the real question that I had for you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that sustainability means being able to be there for your customers or for your community under whatever conditions you have. And the truth about sustainability right now, a lot of sustainability experts are looking at sustainability's sister, which is being able to bounce back. This idea of being ready for things such as COVID. So it's all about.
Is there a word for it? Bounce back? I would think resilience, but maybe not.
Yeah, resilience is exactly the word. And resilience planning is part of being nimble. It's part of being ready, and with all the kinds of natural disasters that we're seeing, and I would say COVID is nature. We have to be ready. We have to think, we have to plan, we have to figure out what our worst case scenario is, and then decide what actions we are willing to take, we have the resources to take, and which ones we must take or we won't be ready when whatever that threat is that does occur. So resilience is very much on the minds of sustainability experts around the globe, and it's changed the conversation somewhat. This global pandemic that we're facing, we're definitely looking at how can we prepare for the next one, whatever it is, whether it's a pandemic or a weather event or something else.
We don't want another one, Liz.
No.
So
That's the thing about these events. Nobody is sitting down signing up for them. These are just
they just show up. Yes, unexpected. And this one was a huge life-changing event for many across the world.
Yes.
So Liz, let me continue the question. Go ahead, Gayatri. Did you have something?
Sorry, if I just have to add one point here.
Sure.
Liz said. I think it's the immunity we develop just as not as humans, but as a system or as a environment.
Okay, so Gayatri, you got cut a little bit there, but I'm going to continue the conversation. I think you were talking about immunity, but we're going to come back to you.
Sure.
So Liz, my question was, let's dive down and deep into the technology, right? The AI, the algorithm, the data management, the data collection, and all that. So how important is digital sustainability, right? And how do digital trends impact the sustainable technology growth? What I mean is, I'm sure you'll find some examples in the food sector, workplace, business, or transportation areas for the technology sustainability. But how has these data, the AI model that has helped businesses improve on how they want to deliver the products or services?
So I'm not sure if I'm going to hit exactly what you're asking, but what I would say is that technology is an everyday part of almost every business. I mean, when someone needs something done and they're going out to find a vendor that can do that thing, they're going to use technology to get to those vendors. And then in terms of how those vendors are serving that client, they're going to use technology, and they're probably going to use it like we're doing right now in this situation where we are social distancing. We're using this digital video technology. They're going to, we know this, they're going to use spreadsheets. They're going to use giant data collection and computation. Depending on what it is you're working on, they could use CAD programs, design programs. And the fact of the matter is we're very dependent on technology, and therefore all of the resilience planning we are doing needs to keep technology up front and in mind. I heard about a nonprofit that was not ready, and they were hacked. And all of their data was held ransom by this hacker, and they had to pay a ransom to get to all their data because they didn't have basic.
Okay, so it looks like Liz, we're having
thinking about
yes.
How you can serve a customer better, helping them understand their vulnerabilities around data, technology, even things like what computers they have. Like, we know I have a bad computer and I have a good computer. And when I use the good computer, you can understand me. And when I use the bad computer, you can forget it. But these are the kinds of things that every business out there is facing, and we need help thinking about those in an organized fashion.
Definitely. I think for a person who didn't understand the question, got the answer perfect. So.
Okay, good.
So I'm doing something sustainable there.
Good, wonderful.
So tell me, so we'll wait for Gayatri to join to get back to the questions that I wanted to ask her. But I couldn't help but notice there's a lead title on your, so can you tell us what's that?
Right. Yeah, sure. So I'm an architect by training, and LEED is a program for certifying buildings, which is I think it's leadership in energy and environmental
design
Design. Thank you. Yeah, I always forget those acronyms. They're pesky. But basically, it's a system that architects, designers, owners use to benchmark their building against the best practices for sustainable buildings. There's another tagline on my name. It's Fitwell Ambassador. And I was lucky enough to be a part of a process of creating a certification system for healthy buildings as well. And basically, these kinds of certification systems, they allow a building owner to understand what the best practices are and say to their project team, I want to meet the silver level or the gold level or the platinum level for that certification. It's just a good way for owners to understand what the whole landscape is out there and to aim for a certain target.
Very nice. So, so is this certification mostly for architects, or anybody who's interested in sustainability in any field can get it? The certification?
Yeah, sure. Anyone can learn about Fitwell, or there's another one called Well. There's LEED. There's one called the Living Building Challenge. Now, most of these are about buildings. So, but you can go online and learn about them. I know there are classes you can take to become an expert in those areas. And, frankly, I think anyone that's interested in sustainability could benefit from looking at those systems and seeing what are the kinds of things that they're asking buildings to do. For example, if you are thinking about cloud computing and you're trying to figure out which vendor you're going to go with, you could ask them, are your facilities LEED certified? And what you would be finding out is, does that cloud service value sustainability? Do they value it? And are they putting their money behind their claims? And then you'll find out they have, maybe they have solar panels, maybe they have hot and cold aisles in their cloud computing. But what you'll find out is that they're committed to sustainability just by asking them, tell us about your facilities. Are they LEED certified? So that's something you could try. I mean, that's a way that anybody can kind of get into the sustainability conversation with vendors that are providing services to them.
Okay, sounds good. So I was reading about some of these major companies, and I'm sure most of the smaller companies and mid-sized companies are doing the same. For example, Walmart has gone digital transformation, and so has many other stores and many other manufacturing retail stores, right? So what you're doing is it has become a successful e-retailer. So you don't have to drive to the store to actually get something, and similar with any other stores. And I know when I used to be at Fulton County government, if you are riding an electric car, or if you're using a bike, then you get some, or if you're using the MARTA bus, you get some incentives, out of the monthly incentives. And also such as Microsoft has gone huge on cloud computing, right? So there's actually no energy waste, there's less waste reduction. What have you done in your company, such strategies to be sustainable, to reduce waste, or how are you helping other companies? If you can give us such examples, sure. Because and also I would like to know, what does a sustainable officer actually do?
Yeah, no, these are great questions. And, one of the things, I can talk about the federal government as a whole.
Yes.
There are a couple of, I would look them up. I'm getting out the numbers right now to tell you what they are. Executive Order 13693 and Executive Order 13514. Those are the old executive orders that were put into place about sustainability by the last administration. And the reason I point you to those is because they were more specific. There's a new executive order right now. It's 13834, and it says we need to do better than last year, but it's not as prescriptive. So it's sustainability is still there. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot more specifics in those older executive orders. So one of the things that the government has incentivized in the past is this idea, as you're speaking of taking the bus, taking the train, and in fact, our federal workers can get basically like a cash card that pays for their van pool or for MARTA or for some even repairs on their bicycle if they're using that to come to and from work on a very regular basis. So there's incentives around that transportation. There are charging stations at a lot of facilities for electric cars. Of course, you still pay for that, but it's there as an option to charge your car at work. We also, in the federal government, the federal government wants to reduce the number of toxic materials that we're purchasing and increase the recycled content of the materials that we're buying. And then specifically with computers, the federal government wants computers to meet EPEAT standards. That's EPEAT, and I don't remember what those letters stand for, but it's things like not having hard metals in your computers. And there are levels you want to get to. I think it's the gold level EPEAT as a minimum. And then finally, I know you've all heard of Energy Star. So technology that meets Energy Star requirements, and then fixtures and furnishings that meet something called Water Sense, which Water Sense is very similar to Energy Star. It's just about water instead of energy. So there are a lot of what I would call policy interventions around sustainability. And if you were just to set policies like we're going to keep the hard metals out of our computers by being EPEAT Gold, then you would do a great deal of good on the sustainability front just by meeting that already established benchmark that's out there. Then there are all kinds of incentives, and this goes not only for the federal government, but for any business. If you can reduce your energy use or your water use, then you're basically getting a rebate from your energy provider or your water provider every month. So if you think about it in terms of, yes, I can pay a little more to create a smarter building, then you get paid back in dividends, basically, by having a lower utility bill. And then the question of what does a sustainability officer do or a sustainability consultant?
Liz, can I hold you on?
Yeah, sure.
Don't leave your thought. Keep it there. I want to make sure I hold on to her when she's here.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yes. So Liz, I'm coming back to you about sustainability
sure.
officer. So since I have Gayatri here, Gayatri, tell us about green cleaning, right? What is green cleaning different from sustainability, or are these two different things, or are the same? The reason I'm asking you is because that's what your company, one of the products is, to go green. But does go green mean sustainable, or is just a part of sustainability? And the question is, what role does sustainability play in your company's overall strategic plan?
I would say, as you rightly said, Go Green is just a part of sustainability in Nazira, because one of the things we seriously believe in is, if we are talking about Go Green, we are saying, let us reduce the chemical footprint, right? That's one of the things we are focusing on. We don't believe that chemicals are dangerous. We believe that the irrational way how we have used the chemicals are dangerous. Even if you come to Go Green, the plant chemistry, if you're looking at, yes, at certain point of time, even plant chemicals are very dangerous. You cannot keep on using them. And also, yes, as you rightly said, we are focused on using the plant chemicals. But again, the question of sustainability comes because we can't overuse it. We can't overuse it. We can't use it irrationally. And there are certain, because we can't, at some other point of time, plants should not be, extinct species for us. We need to keep that as well as in the mind when we are using it, because irrationally, if you use plants, yes, we'll definitely have a problem even when in future where our next generations might even think, what is a plant? We don't want to create such a situation. So
that's
another thing
huge.
what we see,
That's huge, Gayatri, because I don't think
that's a
anybody
very
thinks.
important thing.
Yeah, so coming from that field, you're really educating us, because I would never think, oh my gosh, these medicinal plants could become extinct. So it's a good way
there
of.
are many medicinal plants. We know, right? Like, for example, Jatamanshi, which is very good for neurological disorders, now is an extinct species. So there are many plants that are going extinct already. So we should not get to that stage where we are making certain plant species which are very important for us extinct. At the same time, when you call sustainability, see, using even a plant chemical above certain level is also dangerous. It can act similar way as how our chemical pesticides are acting right now. For example, neem, already some of the, this species like culex and all that, the mosquitoes have developed resistance to a certain extent. So extensive use of them also tomorrow creates superbugs.
Right.
We already created quite a lot of superbugs irrationally, just using the pesticides and all that. So I feel when we talk about sustainability, is just not using plant products, how best we use them, how reasonably we use them, or how rationally we use them, how rationally we go green. We should not just walk into green saying that I'm using herbal ingredients. Where is the limit? There is a limit for everything. There is a rationality behind everything. So unless the limit and the rationality comes into our life, then I think the meaning of sustainability is lost totally.
Well,
green is just part of sustainability.
Very, very well said. And the other question that I had asked you, Gayatri, was, or do you have any challenges when you have sustainability as a part of your strategic plan in your company? Might be your team doesn't understand, or they say, hey, this is just a plastic, why should I recycle? Do you have all those challenges?
Yes,
Continue to teach them.
Quite a bit of it. Yes, quite a bit of it. Because, see, as the generations move forward, I think our way of lifestyle, the way of living, the exposure has changed quite a bit. Okay, and I don't think what I understand from my grandparents as sustainability, I do not understand it, and my next generation doesn't understand it. See, because right now what I'm seeing, just people are saying don't use plastic. That is one of the statements. Just you can't completely throw off plastic, right? There are many applications that we run with plastic, but how judiciously we are using it. One small example I give, and I really find it funny to give this example. I know at certain point of time when plastic was becoming more and more, when these Tupperwares and other type of products have come, jewelry has come in plastic. I know
Jewelry
people
has
wearing
come.
plastic jewelry.
Yeah.
Is it the right application of plastic? Did we ever question ourselves, are we right using the products right? Okay, forget about a layman. Did a scientist or did a manufacturer or did a company which is actually understands this plastic, the disposable of this, how to dispose this plastic, or what are the hazards if you don't dispose it right, has educated the people?
Definitely.
These are all links that have missed in the course of time, where I think we are talking about sustainability, right? But how holistically we are talking about sustainability.
Yes, and I can see with all that's being said, Gayatri, Liz, you have a tough job in your hand, because it's just like she said, why has anyone thought about why you want to use plastic for jewelry, right? You are misusing one again, another plastic. But then, Liz, isn't it about business? Isn't it about profit? Isn't it about new ideas? Isn't it what people want? So how do you manage and maintain? I'm not disagreeing, Gayatri, at all. I am, but then there's the business model, that people want it. So I'm making it. And by the way, Liz, where Gayatri is, I did my medical school from nearby that city. And when I visited the Bengaluru this time, plastic bags were banned. They would literally fine you with any plastic bags anywhere they see you in stores. So they started using cloth bags.
Cloth bags. Yeah.
Yes. So go ahead, Liz.
Wow.
How is it for a sustainable officer to do their work?
Well, I think that as long as you realize that your job is never done, then that's fine. You're going to do fine at the job. What sustainability really, how it manifests itself is in a constant re-looking at how we do everything we do. So if you have a process and it is something that is major to your business, say that 75% of your work has to go through this particular process, then it makes sense to take a look at that process and to these are basic kind of Lean Six Sigma processes. You look at that process and you try to figure out, okay, what are all the inputs and what are all the outputs, and how can we make that process better for the people that are in the middle of it or that are tangentially related to the process, for the planet, and then for our own pocketbook, how can we save money? It's interesting. I have a little story. There's a gentleman named Ray C. Anderson, and he's very familiar in the facilities world because he was the chief of Interface carpet and flooring, and he was on top of the world. He found out that he was making more carpet than anyone in the whole world, and then he started thinking about that and realized that also meant he was making more waste in the world than any other carpet manufacturer. And he had this epiphany that he needed to be part of the solution of finding a home for that waste when that carpet met its end of lifetime. And he wrote a book called Mid-Course Correction. It's a good book. I know it's been re-released recently, and it tells the story of him realizing that he had a role to play, not only in manufacturing, but now in rethinking his entire manufacturing paradigm. And, one of the things that I remember Interface doing very early on, they said they would take anybody's carpet. Anytime anybody was ripping carpet out, they would take it and he put it in a warehouse, and he worked to find something to do with that resource. So, he wasn't turning his back on the earth and saying, well, it's okay, I'll just make it today and tomorrow it'll go into a landfill. He was saying, no, bring me that resource, bring me that waste. And instead of throwing it away, we're going to do something with it. That reminds me, when we have this concept of throwing things away, there is no away. It goes somewhere here on this earth. And so when we change our thinking to kind of this closed loop idea that whatever we create, it has to, go around in a circle and be ready to be reused somewhere else, then you start to design things better. You start to think, okay, so maybe people want plastic in a certain form. Well, how can we design it so that at the end of its useful life, it can be reused as some sort of a stock for some other plastic? So we have a long way to go, and I know that plastic is a big problem. It's in our oceans. It's everywhere. It's showing up inside seagulls, on the beach. And we need to put some resources towards the research around making our plastic so that at the end of its life as a bottle or whatever it is, it can be turned into something else or used for something else.
Definitely. So back then, and the reason I say back then is there's a reason behind why I'm saying back then, Liz, because back then we used to think America was all it was the place you have to be, right? And I'm sure people continue to think that. I'm a citizen here. I love my country, but my roots are back in India. And I always thought, but we already had neem, and only now I see neem sticks for toothbrushes and all coming out. We already used cloth diapers back then, right? So similarly, the reason I'm talking, and I want to talk about global, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, So you wouldn't believe, I saw a neem stick for brushing teeth for $15 in Walmart the other day. And I'm like, my grandpa used to use that just free out of the branch of the tree. So those things, I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't anybody from India, bring it up or make it as a product and sell it cheaper? So my question is, even cow dung, right? Because I'm coming back to the energy. I'm coming back to the energy, fossil fuel, right? It's coming, it might be a short-term solution, but then what about natural? So when do we get into complete solar panels, the natural gas, and continuously reduce or improve the pollution, and start talking about sustainable biofuels? So in India, Gayatri, as we know, cow dung is an everyday use, and I know they put it on the walls to dry and then make they use it for the stuff. Yes, so which is never thought about in America, and America's be all do all for many. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, but we already have this in India. So how do we, is there some disconnect going on in the world between America and places like India, which has the solution?
That's an interesting question. And I think that as the world has gotten, first of all, it got really big and now it's becoming really small. And I think that this connection, if you had told me a year ago I'd be on a webinar with someone who was in India at the same time, I would say, yeah, no, we wouldn't. But we are, and here we are. And the world is very small now. And I think that these kinds of connections are happening. Last week, I was on a conference call with architects and designers who were talking about Italy and what they were going through with going back to work after the COVID crisis. This past week, I was on another conference call with architects talking about India and how they're retooling their buildings to be touchless, and what the real estate outlook is there for buildings and for health in buildings. So I think that we are entering, I'm not going to name that our new phase is like we had the Industrial Revolution and now this is the COVID revolution or whatever this is. This is the, technology connectivity that we always said that we had, but now we're truly utilizing it on a daily basis. This is a new time when ideas can be shared even more seamlessly across borders and across time frames, like you said back then. One thing I would say about sustainability and about technology, and there's not really a good time to talk about it, so I'm just going to throw it out there, this might be it, is that a lot of sustainability is just identifying the right technology for the situation. So if you're doing a project and you are collecting data and putting it into a database, and it takes someone longer to put it in the database than just putting it on a pad of paper, and then you only use it for 30 minutes, you should use the old technology, pen and paper. But if you're going to reuse that data and you're going to bring it and combine it with other data, then you might want to use a different technology. So a spreadsheet or a database or, big data. So a lot of what we're doing when we're selecting how we attack whatever the problem is saying, what is the appropriate technology? And it could be that some of these solutions that India has are exactly the appropriate technology for where it's being used, but it may not work in some of the other situations. I'm just, guessing here. I'm just positing this idea. But a lot of times what we do is the opposite. We assume that people need the highest technology when really maybe they don't. And they would be fine with a cloth diaper because guess what? You can wash it and reuse it. And so I think we all have a lot of opportunity to learn new ways to approach technology. And really, sustainability is about how you do what you do, not what you do, but how you do it.
Very well said. And this is our 10th webinar, and at least I know my team and I have been learning a lot from each of the panelists. So Gayatri, let's go back to that question about comparing where you are and where we are and the global approach of sustainability. Do you think we are well far ahead, except that we don't have the resources or the research that can be done to put it out in the world?
No, I don't say that we have enough number of resources, we have enough data, enough information, and I think there are enough number of people working on it. But then I think it's all done in small pockets, isolated pockets. It's not being done as a total community. Now, if you see, I'm sorry, I'm taking the present situation. I think that touches people quite well because
relevant, yes.
After so many years, we are all seeing pandemic, which is global, and every individual on earth is facing the problem because of this. So this is the time I feel we should keep all other differences, what are happening in the world aside, and just look at creating a sustainable world. Each country has its own positives, own negatives, right? Even if you see the countries like China and all that, they have beautiful ways of sustainable sciences which are present there. So I think we need to work as a global team right now instead of working in isolated pockets, because resources is not simple, is not less, and the technology is not less. We have all the information. Pull it together. I think it needs to be worked as a global community instead of working as India or as US or as UK or Europe. Come together, bring things out, and then implement it, as rightly Liz said. How do we adapt it to that particular environment? Or see, every environment, if we go back and see our old habits, nature has taught us to live to that environment. Nature has actually taught us to live to the geography. That's why each of us have our own food habits, our own way of living, the way we construct the houses or the way we live. I think that is all come because nature taught us that way. We can adapt it to that. Take the positives of everything and try adapting to that particular environment and see how sustainably how sustainable we can make it to that particular geography and particular environment. I think this needs a collective effort, definitely not isolated pocket effort. It should be more a global effort.
Definitely, global connectivity is much possible as well at this time. It's just that how do we do it, or maybe it's already happening on a small scale. So I definitely want to touch upon ethics and government and law, right? Because anytime you're developing a product or a service, you want to be making sure you're compliant. So do engineers, and I want to talk about in a global picture, do engineers feel obligated to consider sustainability in their design, right? And why not, if you can just let us know that. But also the ethical dilemmas that these designers, and I know, Liz, you're a designer, ethical dilemmas that they face through, right? So just like United States doesn't have any law on how you can dispose probably the electric cars, right? There are no laws. So how is the law across Europe, India, Asia or US? Is it helping sustainability, or it depends on which administration, how much they believe in sustainability? Go ahead, Liz.
Okay, great. So I think that the answer is it depends. I think that there are some places where sustainability is in the code, and you design your building to meet that code, like the energy code, the national building code, the international building codes. There are a lot of measures in those codes that are helping improve sustainability, but there's definitely more to be done. And I know that organizations like the American Institute of Architects, ASHRAE, American Society for Heating, ASH. Well, anyway, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and the American Planning Association. All of these professional organizations have standards for sustainability. They have standards for ethics, and certainly they all want to do the right thing. As we talked about at the beginning, I think if you are a designer and you're building something and you're balancing people, planet, and pocketbook, then you're going to be getting a better solution at the end. We talked a little bit about these certification systems also. The nice thing about a certification system is it doesn't meet a law. It's not a law. It's a voluntary standard that a building owner can choose to meet. And there are some very nice volunteer standards within LEED, for example. And then another one that I like very much is it's the Living Building Challenge. And the difference between these two systems, the Living Building Challenge is almost impossible to meet. And it's because it's supposed to be a challenge and it's supposed to be really hard. And they talk about it not being like a less bad building, but actually being a building that gives back to the community. At Georgia Tech just built the Candida building, which is attempting to be certified as a living building. Very difficult, especially in a humid, hot, southern United States climate. But that building, and what it does is it utilizes, like you were talking about, Doctor, it utilizes technologies that are appropriate to this climate and that have been proven and that nature already has put a stamp of approval on, if you will. And you know, I'm hopeful that building will become a living building, but it's got to go through a period of testing and figuring out if it's running to those standards. Those standards are: it uses no energy that's not created there on the site. It uses no water that's not created there on the site. It creates food for the occupants of the site, whether they are animals or, you know, this one actually has a beehive up top that, you know, is producing honey. So being creative about how we build and having our buildings not take away resources, but rather become regenerative. That's kind of the direction of the most aspirational of these systems. LEED has set itself in a place where it's trying to get people to be creative, but it's also got an eye towards code creation. I don't know if they would say that, but a lot of things that were in the first LEED are now part of the building code. And you know, if you think about what is a building code, the building code is the least bad building you can build and it still be legal. So if you think about it that way, it's a pretty low bar, but that bar has risen as LEED has encouraged designers to think about other ways of providing energy, light, water, you know, and shelter with buildings and you know, other structures. I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, this is a lot of my team is already texting. Oh, that's such valuable information. So, my kids, they go to a school, and the school has this program called 7 Habits of Highly Effective Kids, and one of them is keep the end in mind. Right. Gayatri, how does one, like for me, you are living in a house, I'm living in a house. How do I know if I am sustainable? How is this house sustainable? Number one. But then to Liz, I want Gayatri to answer that. Or how can I make it sustainable? It might be energy efficient, recycling. But I want to learn more for an everyday person, you know, of how to make myself sustainable, because I'm not into that field completely. But with Liz, I wanted to also ask, after you answer, about what does it mean for a city to be a sustainable city, right? So go ahead, Gayatri.
Great.
See, no, definitely we are not living in sustainable environment. And if you see the WHO data and all that, the interior pollution is 100 times more than what we experience outside. The pollution what we take outside is much less actually. I think we are surrounded by chemicals everywhere, right? And the way we are constructing the houses, I don't think there is a flow of energy. There is a certain flow of energy that is definitely required, whether it is your air or, you know, sunlight. all the elements, they need to flow in a certain direction to give the completeness to the house. And I don't think we are adhering to it. If you see, actually, if I take the context of India, there are certain books like written by Varahamihira and Chanakya and all of them, the Samhitas, where they have actually texted even the minimum requirement that is required for a house. And I would say our houses don't even have the basic requirements.
Wow.
We have it written, we have it in black and white script, but unfortunately we moved out of that. So definitely we are not living in a healthy environment where we are surrounded by chemicals in the first place. We are taking lots of pollutants. Oxygen levels are quite low. So definitely our nervous systems, our brains are losing their capacity, or we are getting into those stress levels. We are getting into those, the headaches or the various problems, lifestyle problems, I would say, which are more dangerous than your cancers and all that. So we are living through these lifestyle problems because of the environment we are living in. And whether it's in office or it's at home or the places we go to, none of them are conducive to the environment we are living in. I don't think we are. And if we have to improve it, yes. So probably we need to reconstruct all the houses. I would say that's right.
So my question is, did nature send COVID to address all this?
Yes, nature being sent. COVID was not the first thing nature has given us. Nature has already given us quite a lot of warnings before. We had lots of pests, issues with mosquitoes. We had tsunamis. We had the Amazon problem. So I don't think this is the first warning we got from the nature. We got quite a lot of warnings. And fortunately, we humans forget what has happened once we cross the problem, right? Even tomorrow, we might forget COVID once the vaccine comes out or once the treatment comes out. We can comfortably forget it and move on with our life. But I think this is the time we can't do that anymore.
Definitely. And one thing that COVID must have done for Bengaluru is give people probably a wonder of the city, of no traffic on the roads at all.
I'm seeing blue skies. Seeing blue skies after a long time, and the stars. Wow. I don't think I've seen them recently. Wow. I can see a blue sky with beautiful stars now.
The pollution, air pollution. Yes, one of the trafficked city, metropolitan city.
Yeah, worst traffic city.
Yes. Go ahead, Liz. Tell us what does it mean to be a sustainable city?
Well, so to address the first thing about your personal footprint, I know that you could go online and look for questionnaires of what is my environmental footprint. And what that will do, it's similar to what a city would do. It'll tell you the areas that you should put a little focus. So it might, when you find out what your environmental footprint is, you might be someone who travels a lot. Well, maybe not now, but you used to. And so travel might be an area that you'd want to cut back because you have a big environmental footprint around travel. It could be that you're someone that uses a lot of energy, or you drive a lot. Maybe you live far from your work and you drive a lot to work, or you drive to some other destination on the weekend. And so that might be an area that you get a more fuel efficient car, or you get an electric car, or you start to take a bike, or you move closer to your office. But by identifying the areas where you have a large opportunity for change and then changing, that's the way you can improve the sustainability of your life or of your house, or whatever it is that you're taking a look at. Cities are doing similar things. They're taking a look at how green the city is. And one of the big ways is something called the Better Building Challenge. Atlanta has been a real leader in the Better Building Challenge, but this program is for cities all across the United States. I'm not sure if it has made it anywhere outside the US now, but basically the Better Building Challenge asks building owners to report their data on the energy use of their buildings, on the water use of their buildings. And in Atlanta, we're also reporting on the waste of our buildings, and we're reporting on the health benefits of our buildings. And in this way, a building owner can look at the data of the building next door and say, wow, how is it they're only, spending this much on electricity and we have the same square footage? So it's a way to share information and understand what the benchmark is. But I've seen a lot of people, pick up the phone and call the guy next door and say, hey, can you help me? How did you do this? And a lot of times what it boils down to is they end up calling the architect or the engineer that worked with them to reduce their energy use or their water use. And now they have a professional who's helping them work on that problem. I have a friend who decided that they wanted to look at the energy use of their house and get it down to zero. And it's been definitely a journey, but until you identify what that goal is and then start to put resources and time towards it, then it's not going to get better.
Awesome. So I looked at the questions and I feel like we've almost answered most of them. They talked about the green, the sustainable banana leaf plates that used back home, and how to reduce the plastic plates over here. As such, I don't see any laws coming up, Liz, about reduction of plastic. I know it's an advocacy that needs to continue in US about less plastic. And I remember even many years ago, my daughter did a video about I'm forgetting the name, where the Coke bottles are, and it fell onto the turtle's neck.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it got covered. The turtle's neck was caught on it, and how it couldn't develop fully because of that plastic thing. So many examples, like kids notice, and they make sure for us not to use or overuse what is not needed. So let's talk about. So the questions are good. We've almost answered most of them through our discussion. So what's next for someone in the audience who's asking, what should I do for sustainability? I know you talked through about it at home, and you talked about it at city level. But for professionals who are starting a company, who have an IT company, or who have in different firms, even for our company, your company, what is next step? And I think I wanted to ask, what's beyond sustainability? And you sort of answered resilience. So I think that's pretty much it. But tell us, what can we do from now? I want to do a closing comment and
this has been great. First of all, thank you. It's been really great to talk about all these things. What I would say, what's next? Everyone has a personal passion. Everyone has something that they care about deeply, and it might be their work, it might be baseball, it might be children, whatever your real passion is. I would tap into that passion and see if there's a way that you can help that be more sustainable. So, for example, I got involved in really trying to understand, when women return to work, do they have a place to go and collect milk in a lactation room? And that was really important to me, to breastfeed my children and to have that opportunity to return to work, but also be able to continue to breastfeed or provide milk to my children. And so what I found is that there just wasn't any knowledge in the architectural community about lactation rooms. And so I wrote a best practice article and started sharing that. And so when you ask what's next, I would say, individually figure out what is important to you, and then figure out what is needed, and do what you can to fill that gap and to address that. And then there was something I heard just as a wrap up today. I think it was New York Times had a column about this, and they said, if you respect nature and you can respect science, and then we respect each other, then we're going to be on the right path. So I think that's how I would address it.
Wow, that's very powerful, and a continuous message for all of us to take it far and beyond. Dr. Gayatri, how about you?
I would say, I think we all, as an individual, should introspect and see where we stand as an individual. What is the contribution we are making to the world? What is that small part change they say change should begin from you if you're expecting something from outside. It should start from us. So let's start making those small changes. I know the drastic steps are very difficult and we can't just jump into a sustainable world overnight. But those small steps we take with respect to us, our environment, our family, our community would take us all to that world what we are dreaming about. I think it's every individual's effort that is required right now. We need to introspect and see what is that we need to change.
Very well said. Introspect and respect the nature and respect yourself and others. So very well messages received by both of you experts. And Dr. Gayatri, kudos to you for staying up for this webinar till 1:30 a.m. And thank you.
I enjoyed every bit of it.
We appreciate you as well. And Liz, thank you always. We look towards to you for helping many of us become sustainable. And thank you all for listening. Hope you've learned a thing or two. Keep the end in mind, sustainability, whether you're starting a company, whether you're in the IT sector, or whether you are at your home. Let's give the Mother Earth the respect it deserves. And thank you again. Visit vendorship.net for our next webinar and the title. And also we make government contracting easy. My team makes sure I have to say that. So thank you. And so thank you again, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.